Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Roar Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Laura Sturm.
All right, welcome to episode 9 of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast. Welcome to my co-host, Laura Sturm.
Hey there, and welcome to my co-host, Josh Rohr, the man, the myth, the legend.
Something like that. And we are going to introduce our next guest here. Our next guest hails from Rockaway, New Jersey. He is a 6-time international powerlifting Category 1 MC in the state of Georgia. He is a USA Powerlifting state referee. Round of applause for Mr. Geno Biancheri.
Josh Rohr and Laura Sturm are in the house. Powerlifting and Power Ballads. Yes, Team Roar.
All right, Geno, welcome to the podcast. Always the outgoing personality that we know and love. So we appreciate you coming on here.
I love the intro, Josh. A 6-time Category 1 international announcer. I'd love to know what the rankings are there and how you get to be those different categories. So,
well, those are all mostly made up. I didn't have any actual stats.
Oh, I'm well aware of that. It was a good intro anyway. I enjoyed that. Maybe we ought to come up with certain categories for referee, not only for referees, but for announcers too.
I think we should. That'd be good. So before we get into some questions we have for you, I'm going to just share a couple memories real quick. Some of the other side of what Geno does, I guess, at powerlifting meets. So one of my most vivid memories of you, Geno, is at I believe it was the 2018 Collegiate Nationals. Was that the one in Texas A&M? Or was that 2017?
I think, you know what, they are all starting to blend together. It was either 17 or 18. Sorry, I can't narrow it down.
So as hosts of the podcast, it's probably on us to do our research and know what we're talking about.
You're right. It was 2018.
Okay. Well, anyway, we were in the break room between sessions, and you were in the back, and you started pulling off your boots and grabbed a roll of duct tape, and you had basically blood all over your toes from running around platform to platform cheering for everybody. So I'm getting my phone out to take a picture of it because I wanted to post it on social media just as a, kind of a behind the scenes, what you go through to put on the show that you do. And you start getting all self-conscious thinking I was doing it to make fun of you. But it was actually kind of a, I don't know, not a tribute, that's not the right word, but just kind of, I wanted people to see, like, I guess the literal blood, sweat, and tears that you put into what you do. And I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought it was very cool. And only one minor part that was a little embarrassing, which you probably don't remember, was I hadn't clipped my toenail.
I remember.
In a while. So, Laura, I have long toenails. I have blisters. I have blood pouring out. I have masking tape on. And you got that picture out there, and I remember Joe Capolino. Joe Cap sends a comment back. He says, "Geno, you look like Satan himself with those long nails and the blood all over them." I was like, just what I need. I catch enough crap every time I put on those horns, for when somebody's lifting 666. Now they're actually thinking that I'm looking that way for real. But anyway, when you do a lot of running, Josh, you do a lot of running when there's 5 platforms, and your feet get beaten up badly, as you well know.
Yeah, well, most people that, I won't say most, but a lot of people that come watch a session of 5 platforms, but what they don't realize is there's 2 or 3 sessions of 5 platforms over 4 days. So they don't realize that, in addition to running around like you are during that session, you're doing it for 4 days. So
and then there's the giving out the medals afterwards. And Laura, you know whose day was the longest that I ever had to work?
You're going to say mine or something.
No, Josh Rohr when he ran Raw Nationals in Atlanta.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a doozy.
Long day.
When did it start, Josh? At like 8 a.m. and ended at like 2 a.m? It was like an 18 day.
Yeah, that first day we were short on referees and spotters and loaders, and it was one of the biggest days of the weekend, and the very first primetime session. So a lot of unknowns and coordinating all that. But yeah, we got done. I guess I'll tell a little side note on that. So
Go ahead.
the building manager, we're getting off topic, but the building manager came to me at like 2, it was like 10 till 2. And he says, we're closing down at 2 a.m. You have to have everybody out. And we're pulling the last deadlifts. So I literally had to, maybe shouldn't say this, but I literally had to pay the guy off to keep it open.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. It was a couple $100 in cash I had to pull out and give him to keep the doors open.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
fun fact there.
That's what it takes sometimes though, right?
Yeah.
You're like, we know we're not going to be done. Here's some cash.
Yeah.
Wow. That's kind of awesome. Well, I was going to say it definitely couldn't have been that day in Mongolia because I thought that was pretty quick.
Yeah, you did fabulous in Mongolia, and I enjoyed announcing you, and I enjoyed the country.
Yeah, that was a great trip.
All right.
Yeah,
So
that was fun.
we're gonna get into some questions for you, Geno. Laura's got a couple she's gonna start off with.
Oh
All
no.
So you're the man with the awesome music, I always say. So do you get a lot of requests to play songs?
Oh my God. This is going to be not a real quick answer if I can just elaborate a little bit. Yes, I get questions and requests all the time, as if my main job and the main reason that I'm there is to be DJ. I'm not a DJ. You know, a lot of people think my real job is I'm a DJ because I do this. My real job is not a DJ. I was a financial analyst. Okay, so I'm not a DJ and I'm not there to spin records. But I get requests from lifters. I get requests from referees. I get requests from coaches, and I get requests from people in the audience. I get most of my requests from people in the audience, and they just want a certain music they want to listen to. It has nothing to do with whether the lifter they're watching likes it or not. They want to listen to this stuff. So I'm constantly getting waved over to the audience saying, hey, can you play this? Can you play that? Can you play the other? And I remember once I got waved over by this older woman, gentleman, the two of them. It was a gentleman and a woman. They had to be in their 80s. And I said, oh no, they're either going to tell me that the music is too loud or they want me to play, you know, Sinatra or Tony Bennett or something, you know. And I walk out, and I'm announcing 5 platforms. I think it might have actually been Josh. Again, Josh, I hate to say this, it might have been one of your meets. And I jump over the stanchion, I get out into the audience, and I say, what can I do for you? Being very respectful to this couple, you know, this older couple. And the woman says to me, young man, can you tell me when this is going to finish? And I said, I really don't know exactly when. Why do you want to know? Because I have dinner reservations at 8 o'clock, and I'm going to need to move them up if this is going to run later. And I said, do you see that I'm in the middle of announcing 5 simultaneous platforms? I said, I don't have time. And then I said, listen, I said, I'll tell you what. I said, you are definitely going to run past 8 o'clock. I said, and if you'd like, I said, you give me the hotel, the restaurant location, and I'll call them up and change the reservations for you. She said, really? I said, no. I said, you're going to have to do that on your own, but it is going to run past 8 o'clock. But I'm constantly getting the requests. One request that kind of, well, I remember it in Chicago. When did we do Open Nationals, Equipped Nationals in Chicago? Was that last year?
Yeah, that was last year. That was 2019.
2018.
2019.
2019.
This is 2020. Yeah.
Laura doesn't know what day it is. I don't know what year it is. But anyway, the powerlifters came up and said, you're not playing heavy enough stuff. I mean, I was playing Disturbed, System of a Down, Papa Roach, Saliva, and it just wasn't. They wanted the real thrasher, the real thrasher metal music, you know. So I said, all right. And I said, I went to the back and I told the guys in the back who are running the music, because I'm not running the music. I said, could you put on the real heavy metal, the real heavy thrasher stuff? I put that on, and then they said, okay, it's good, but it's not loud enough. And then I had to go back again and tell them to turn it louder, because, you know, you like to accommodate the lifters. You like to make sure that they get what they want when they're on the platform. And sure enough, there was a guy in the audience, a Masters 4 lifter, who then came up and complained to me that it was too loud and the music wasn't any good. And he was writing a letter to USA Powerlifting to complain, and he was never coming back again. I guess my point is, you can never make everybody happy, no matter what you try to do. there was another time when I saw this woman who was at a venue in Vancouver, and I saw this woman. She was way up in the top, up in the rafters. Why she walked up there, I don't know. She was about 104 years old. And I see her hobbling down, hanging onto the banister with both hands, you guys. And she's taking them one step at a time. I mean, I think I finished a whole pizza by the time this woman got down to the front. And I'm watching her walk down. And I even had a brownie for dessert before she finally got to the front. And she says, "Hey, you, come here. Come here." And I said, "Are you talking to me?" "Yeah." She goes, "You're announcing my granddaughter out there and you're saying her name wrong. It's not Bonnie Rempel, it's Bonnie Rempel. You get that right." And I said, "I'm very sorry about that." So the two things I get the most, Josh and Laura, are questions about the music and that I've screwed up somebody's name, and there's a lot of names to learn from a lot of countries. Mm-hmm. Those are the two biggest requests I get out of the audience.
And I think a side note on that, the fact that you, believe it or not, people don't realize this, you do memorize a lot of the people. Like I've been to meets where, some random person's lifting and you just pull out this fact about them out of left field. Like it's not like something that you picked up on at a previous meet and just remembered. So I don't know how you do that.
I do have a very, I have a screwy brain, everybody knows that. Well, but I also do have a screwy brain for remembering a lot of pointless facts. And yeah, I can remember something from 4 years earlier and bring that item up at a competition right during the middle of the competition, and it just blows the person's mind. So yeah, I do have a memory for certain, which reminds me, if I can just tell you, Laura, about one or two other quick things. I've had referees come up to me and say, "Can you stop playing the same damn AC/DC songs over and over and play something different?" And I say to them, this is what they request. It's probably the most requested group out there is AC/DC. If that's what they want to hear, I'm going to put it on again. I'm sorry that you're working an 8-hour day and you might have to hear the song twice, but that's what the lifter wants. And if that's what they want when they come out, that's what I'm going to play. But one of the wackiest times, you guys know Bill Sindelar, the chief, the Category 1 referee, right?
Yeah, I love Bill.
He's a super good friend of mine, super nice guy. I've been to his ranch out in Nebraska. And he was chief referee once, and these came down to this final two guys, and they were going neck and neck with each other. They were right one after the other, and the place was going nuts. People are screaming and yelling, and people are turning in third attempt changes. And this big old Southern lady this was at a Robert Keller meet in Orlando, who was in charge of getting us lunch. She'd come up to the table, and I'm up there with Jill Arno and the expediters, and she goes, "I've got your with a Southern accent. I've got your Chick-fil-A. What kind of sauce do you want on your Chick-fil-A?" And Jill Arno says, "We're into third attempts. They're making changes. Not now." She goes, "I'm not talking to you. I want to know you, expediter. What kind of sauce do you want? The ranch or the barbecue?" Oh, I thought Jill was going to strangle this woman. But anyway, that's not the point of my story. I digress. Point of the story was one of the lifters wanted me to play Pantera, Cowboys from Hell. And the next lifter wanted me to play Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, classical music. Okay. And
Yes.
These guys were back to back. Neither of these songs were on my playlist. So I had to go to YouTube and play each of them and load them up on my cell phone. And you got to work pretty fast when you're going back to back with these guys, each one coming out. And I'm trying to make the changes to get the music going as each of them comes out. Finally, Bill Sindelar, who keeps looking over at me, sees me clicking away on my cell phone. He calls time out, and he gets up and he walks over to me and he says, "You might want to consider paying attention to what's going on rather than texting your friends." And I said, "Bill, I'm putting on songs that they're requesting. I am not texting my friends." And he went, "Never mind." And he went back to the platform. So anyway, the joys of trying to get all the music that they want. That's why I put together that Geno's playlist. And if I can just tell you guys, there are two playlists out there. There's an old one that I didn't create called This Is Geno Powerlifting. And then there's a new one that I have created. It's been out for a while now, called Geno Powerlifting Songs. It's the same one as the old one. It's just a lot more comprehensive. It's got 7 or 8 hours of music rather than maybe 2 hours of music. So if you're looking to get on, don't go to This Is Geno Powerlifting. Go to Geno Powerlifting Songs, and you'll get 8 hours of music. I got 70s, 80s.
And that's on Spotify, right? On
No,
Spotify.
sorry, thank you. That's on Spotify. 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. I know not a lot of 80s, Josh. I basically only have, like the Clash and Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and the Sex Pistols. Then in the 90s, I have, a lot of Limp Bizkit, Foo Fighters, Rage Against the Machine, Offspring. Then I got the 2000s. I got Disturbed, System of a Down, Papa Roach, Saliva. I got Rev Theory. I got, just a lot of good stuff. And of course, the two most requested groups, AC/DC and Metallica, which is a large bulk of what's on there because that's mostly what gets asked. And then I have some oddball stuff that I put on. Like I put on a U2 song, and that usually gets booed off because it's too mellow for them. So I only have one U2 song, and it only gets about halfway through before they tell me to change the channel. But anyway, that's the site, Geno Powerlifting Songs on Spotify. I hope that the long-winded answer answered your question, Laura.
So the conclusion is that you basically get shit from all directions is essentially the moral of that story, correct?
Pretty much correct, and you can't make everybody happy.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely true. So the one band that you get to play the most, AC/DC, Metallica?
Without a doubt, AC/DC, Metallica would be number 2. And
so if you were on a desert island and could only play one group for a powerlifting meet, what would it be?
Oh, wow, that's tough. I'm going to have to go with, the powerlifters aren't going to like this, but I'm going to have to go with my favorite group that happens to be The Who.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't know that.
So you're not going with AC/DC on that. I thought that was for sure.
Right?
Well, if I was on a desert island with powerlifters, you can be for sure betting on the fact that I would be taking all of just the entire AC/DC catalog with me. If I was by myself, it would probably be The Who or U2 or the Rolling Stones or David Bowie, kind of the older stuff. You know what I mean?
I gotta say, I actually respect you a little bit now because of that answer.
Oh, he didn't respect you before, I think is what he said. That's weird.
No. So on that note a little bit, if you had to, and this is not your wheelhouse, but I'm going to make you answer it anyway. If you had to say, what is your favorite 80s power ballad of all times?
Ooh. All right. Well, listen,
because that's the big part of this show here is talking about my love of power ballads.
All right. I'm going to try here. Now, tell me if this is even a power ballad, even if you know the song. Okay. I hope I get this right. I was born in New York, but I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm a big John Bon Jovi fan. He has a song called "Lay Your Hands on Me."
Lay your hands on me. Lay your hands on me. Lay your hands on
me. You know it, Josh.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites. And so we're derailing the train here, but
it derailed as soon as I got on. But
yeah, right. So each week we talk about one of the tracks for the Josh Rohr's Power Ballads. People know the story by now.
Right.
But I have a playlist of songs for a volume 2 that has never been produced, and that song is on there. So
seriously, the song is already on there?
No. Well, it's on my list. I haven't made the CD, but it's on my list. It's one of the tracks that is in my list for a volume 2 if I ever make one.
Not because I just told you it was already in there.
No, it's been in there since like 2009.
Oh, Josh,
And I don't know. So to answer your question, I don't know if that actually counts as a power ballad or not. But it's such a kick-ass song that it's on my list.
All right. That's the closest I can come to a power ballad, and the fact that he already had it on his list, Laura, I'm starting to gain a whole new level of respect for him too.
Nice. And I'm still a big proponent for this to be made. Yeah. Maybe not as a CD though, because who does CDs anymore? I couldn't even play a CD if I wanted to.
Well,
you would be both.
That's so. CDs are funny. This is another side note, but my last junior nationals, I believe was in 2006. And one of my rivals back in college was David Hammers. We were both in the same weight class, and we kind of would go back and forth and who beat each other.
Right.
But there was another guy, Terry Acosta, and he still makes fun of us about that. And he actually ended up being a better lifter than both of us when all was said and done. But anyway, point is, Dave and I went 1 and 2 at this meet, and the other guy got third. And on social media afterwards, the only thing he posted was, "I can't believe I got beat by 2 guys with Discmans." Because this was in the age of iPods and everything, and we still had our portable CD players. So I definitely like the CDs still.
Speaking of which, I want to compliment you on a fabulous job on that mock meet, that Raw mock meet, that virtual meet that you ran past Saturday. I thought that ran flawlessly, given the logistical nightmare that you went through to kind of get that whole thing to come to fruition. Fantastic job, pal. Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for being part of it. You kind of kept everything organized from the MC position, because we were kind of all over the place and had people lifting all over different places and stuff too. So yeah, if you weren't on there, it would have been a mess.
Little tough to announce. I feed off of the music and the energy of the crowd, and I didn't have either, so it's a little tough, a little unusual for me. But
yeah,
but you gotta mellow it out anyway. When you're not live there, you're online. You have to kind of speak a little differently. There's a big difference between announcing live in an audience and then announcing when you're asked to do the live stream. They're 2 entirely different jobs, and people think they're similar. They are not even close. Laura, you've done plenty of live streams. You've been asked to go in the back and do live streams, right? Haven't you done them?
I have not. I don't speak well.
All right. Well, you're doing podcasts and you're doing just fine. Speaking of which, Laura, how many miles did you run today for powerlifting?
0.0.
Yes, that's my girl, 0.0. I have that sticker hung up on my refrigerator.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Hey, Geno, have you ever, there's a show, you probably never heard of it. It was, I think it was the late 80s and through like the mid to somewhat late 90s, called Seinfeld. Have you ever heard of it?
Very funny, very funny. You sound like the guy in the restaurant that doesn't know how to say his name properly.
Yeah.
Yes, I know the Jerry Seinfeld show, and it happens to be, if not my favorite sitcom, one of my top 2 or 3 favorite sitcoms of all time.
Yeah, it's my all-time favorite. And I only bring it up because I know every time we get together, we end up talking about it for hours. And a certain wife of mine gets tired of listening to us talk about Seinfeld. But my question is, what's your all-time favorite episode of Seinfeld?
Oh, that's easy. Let me say this real first. There's a New Jersey referee by the name of Craig Safran, who always comes out and referees when we have the New Jersey State Championships. He's just as big a fan as you probably are, I'm going to guess. And I happen to be a fairly big fan of the show too. So whenever I'm announcing in front of his platform, I'll say who's up, who's on deck, and who's in the hole. And I'll say, now I want to see if you know who this is. I'm going to put you to the test now. I'll say Josh Rohr is up, Laura Sturm is on deck, and Bob Sacamano is in the hole.
Kramer's lifelong friend.
Ah, very good, very good. Not a lot of people know that,
Yeah.
And I'll say Bob Sacamano's in the hole, and he'll have his hand up, and he's just ready to give the squat command, and he will just burst out laughing, and I'll ruin his whole mojo. So I don't do it too often because I don't want to screw up the lifters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my favorite one would have to be. I guess you have to hear this every week, huh, Laura? If he does this every week, I don't know. But my favorite one would be the one where George gets some pulp from the grapefruit stuck in his eye. You know that one?
Yep. And what's his name? Kramer comes to him about selling the birthday card.
Right, with that signed by everybody from the Yankees.
So you're telling me you want me to go ahead and sell the card signed by the Yankees? No. And then he winks because he's got grapefruit juice in his eye.
And of course, Laura, he goes and he sells the card, and George comes up to him later and he says, Kramer, did you sell that card? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, why? He goes, because you told me to. He goes, I never told you to. And Kramer says, well, we had an understanding. And he goes, I want you to get it back. And he winks again. And Kramer goes, I don't understand. Do you want me to get it back or not? And this is the best line. The best line on that show, Josh, he goes like this. He holds his eyeballs open so that he doesn't blink anymore. And he goes, get it back.
Yeah.
You got to watch the whole episode. It's hysterical.
Yeah. So if anybody out there listening's never watched Seinfeld, I'm first of all disappointed, but second of all, you still have a chance to redeem yourself.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's always time.
So that brings us to our track of the week. We announce one of the tracks every week. And this week is trivia. This happens to be coincidence here, but Geno, I'm gonna get your opinion. The track is Foreigner, I Want to Know What Love Is. But for those of you that don't know, Foreigner is my all-time favorite band.
Wow. And Laura, and I would have thought all along that his favorite band was Michael Jackson from the 80s.
It's up there, but I've only seen two bands twice in concert. One of them was Kiss, and the other was Foreigner.
Wait. Can you repeat that? You've only ever seen two bands in concert?
Two bands twice.
Twice.
Oh, twice. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Twice
So
each.
so I've seen Kiss twice, and I've seen Foreigner twice.
You know how many times I've seen The Who and U2 since I've told you they're my favorite bands?
Probably a lot.
Over 20 times each.
I believe it. Oh, hey, this is something for you. My wife Hope, who you know as Faith, sometimes you call her that.
Yeah, I do mistaken her for Faith.
She has the Who box set upstairs.
Does she really?
Yeah, I saw it sitting up on the shelf.
Well, that's impressive. I want you to put that on and listen to that as soon as you get a chance.
I will. I actually have never listened to it, believe it or not, but it's up there.
Well, I need to speak to her about that.
Yeah.
Well, I have a memory of Josh with Foreigner, where we were out on the river, a bunch of us from Team Roar, out on the Chattahoochee River, and he was a little very drunk, and Foreigner came on.
A little very drunk. I love that.
A little very drunk, and Foreigner came on. He was like, "This is the greatest band in the world." It just, yeah. So that's how I think of Foreigner, as Josh Roar was saying, this is the greatest band in the world.
Oh, well, you learn something new every day about people. I didn't know that about Josh. Laura, are you aware of the fact, I know I bust his chops all the time about this, and I'm going to do it again, Laura. But, you know, when he ran, he did so many things that were out of the box and just moving the changing the paradigm about how powerlifting meets were run when he's the guy that first implemented the prime time at the first nationals. And he actually had people turning in musical requests they wanted for when they came up to lift. And if they didn't turn in a request, it automatically reverted back to the playlist, the Josh playlist. And every time someone didn't turn in a list, it seemed like every time I turned around, Billie Jean was playing on the loudspeaker. And I'm saying, Josh, look, I understand you like the 80s music, man, but these are power lifters. You got to do better than Billie Jean. And especially, Ray Williams is coming up. He's about to squat 1,000 pounds. Put something else on besides Billie Jean. All right, I'll take care of that. Right, Josh?
In my defense, I did email all of the lifters in primetime, and I told them very specifically, if they don't turn in a song, I'm playing 80s music that I like.
Oh, you did?
They knew. They knew.
Oh, they knew. So they knew they were going to get 80s music if they didn't turn something in.
Yeah, so
maybe they liked it.
So that's not on me, Geno. That's on them.
Fair enough. Can I ask a quick question? Laura, who are some of your favorite groups, if I may ask, not limiting to one?
For lifting, I'm probably in the more heavy metal side, like Iron Maiden, Disturbed, Korn. I love Motionless in White lately. They're my favorite.
Love all those groups. Speaking of Iron Maiden, hey, Josh.
Yeah.
666, the number of the beast.
Really, I think that's like one of the best moments of my memories of Raw Nationals too. Like when somebody came up to lift 666 and the big jumbotrons that came on, and that was just such a cool moment.
Yeah,
Every time.
whoever did those graphics, I think that was what's his name, Louis Hymas, right? Put those graphics up there. It really first time I saw that was at the Arnold's. I almost fell over.
Right, with your face up there, and
Yeah, I turned around. My face was 10 feet tall, staring me in the face with those horns on, with that
that's how you know you've made it. That's how you know.
Yeah, that and 50 cents gets me a ride on yesterday's subway.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think what those of you that don't know, so he's referring to 302.5 kilos, which ends up being 666 pounds in pounds. That was a dumb statement. But I think that number, I think because of the hype of that and you going crazy when that comes on, has actually screwed up a lot of lifters. Because I personally have seen lifters put that on the bar for their third squat or their third deadlift just because they want you to go crazy, and they have no business lifting that much weight.
I have to admit to you, I have seen that once or twice too. I've actually gotten to the point now, to the two of you, where I will go into the back room and I will say to the person, if you're going for a PR total and you're not sure which you should put on, 300 or 302, please don't put the 302 on and a half on, because I don't want to be the one that made you miss your PR total or made you go from silver to bronze because you were trying to take it up 2.5 kilos just to hear me scream. Do what you think you're comfortable with. And I've actually had to talk several people out of doing that. But I like when people put it on when they're training in the gym. I mean, to this day, years later, I must get, I would say once a week, somebody tagging me on something when they're doing it in the gym and training, and they're saying, you know, this is for Geno and here's 666. So it's kind of taken on a life of its own, that whole thing, you know?
Yeah, but nothing's more like defeating or deflating than you going crazy, getting it all hyped up, no lift.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. I take those flashing horns off pretty darn fast. And if I could just say about the horns, I once had somebody at a meet come up to me and pull me into the back room and tell me, you know, I don't know why you're promoting the devil. Jesus is the way. And I said, look, I'm a religious person too, and I know that he is. I'm just doing this just kind of for humor. I'm not serious, and I want, you know, them to know out there that I don't want you to think that, you know, late at night I'm stripping down naked and laying on a pentagram and trying to whip up some spells, you know. It's humor, and that's all it is. And it makes for great internet, and the crowd gets a charge out of it. But don't read anything deeper into it, because that's all that's really about, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just joking.
Just
Just
joking. Right there. That's pretty amazing.
So, how's quarantine been on your beard, Geno?
As you can tell, let me get a little closer to the camera. Brutal, man, brutal. Do you want to know what, Josh? Do you want to know what latest crack I got from more than one person when Mike Z was posting some of the pictures of me? When I had the black coat on, not the shirt that I have on now. I had the black coat on, and I was standing front like this with the beard and the hat. And I got several people asking, "Is that Osama bin Laden?"
Oh,
So,
man.
So I've had
Did you punch him in the face?
Yeah, I know. I wanted to. You know, I've got a couple of sarcastic cracks, and then people were actually posting the shot of bin Laden on a TV when he was hidden away, and then put it next to me, and you know, I can see how there were some similarities, but you know, the beard was about the only one. So yeah, the beard has been. This is the first time I haven't shaved in 5 months since I've been shaving, so it's quite interesting to see all this come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's filling in nice. So I think we're gonna kind of wrap it up on that note, Geno. Where anybody that wants to kind of follow you and see what you're doing, they can follow you on Instagram. I believe it's Geno Powerlifting. Is that correct?
You are correct, sir.
Awesome. And if you guys want to see the video, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, definitely check us out on YouTube, Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, and you'll be able to
Just
see
to see the beard.
Yeah, see the beard, and and see what all the hype is about. So thank you guys for tuning in. Geno, we really appreciate you being on. And I guess on that note, we'll see you all later.
Good to see the two of you. Thanks again for having me on.
Awesome. See you too. Bye now.
Ciao.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.